What's going on, everybody? I'm here chilling here in the park. Nice day. Got my table right here. It's like one of those tables where you play dominoes on or whatever. But I wanted to talk about something that my friend had brought up to me a little while back. Now, this guy's not the biggest boxing fan in the world, but he had asked me, is Tyson Fury the greatest heavyweight of all time? And it made me look at it in a few different ways. So first off, when I look at greatness, generally speaking, I rank based off of resume, longevity, accomplishments, and then head-to-head. Usually in that order, generally speaking. So Tyson Fury, obviously right now, I think he's the number one guy. But from an all-time standpoint, I'm not the biggest historian in the world. But to be frank with you, I don't even have him in my top 10. And my top 10, it dates back to guys like Jack Johnson, Joe Louis, Jack Dempsey, people like that, so on and so on. I think Tyson Fury is a great fighter, but if you look at his accomplishments, or should I really say lack of accomplishments, they're not really that great. I mean, we could break it down right here. First off, he beats Vladimir Klitschko, but that's a 39-year-old Klitschko. He then was supposed to have a rematch, but he pulled out of the rematch multiple times. The fight never happened. A lot of people think he ducked the rematch. I don't know about all that. I'm not a psychologist. But the point is, the rematch didn't happen. He then goes out of the sport of boxing. Hold on one second. He goes out of the sport of boxing for 3 years or whatever it was. Fights Wilder on the road. Should have won that fight, in my opinion, but whatever, it becomes a draw. He then fights two people that nobody's ever heard of, Tom Schwartz and Otto Wallin. And then he fights Wilder again. He absolutely destroys him. And then he fights Wilder again in that great fight. He wins by knockout. And then he beats Dillian Whyte, who's a top 5 heavyweight at the time. Prior to beating Vladimir Klitschko, he did have a few solid wins. He beat Chisora twice, Christian Hammer, but nothing major. So this is a man who has 4 world title fights. Now, just to put this into context, you have a guy like Joe Louis. He has 26 championship wins. Muhammad Ali, I think, has 25. Larry Holmes has 20. Vladimir Klitschko has 18. You get the point. A lot of people will bring up a guy like Mike Tyson and say that he didn't, accomplish that much, but he, I think, even has like 12 or 13 wins, and he was undisputed, something Fury never did. This guy's got 4 championship wins. Now, he beat Klitschko, he beat Wilder twice, and Dillian Whyte. That's probably the best first 4 wins for a fighter in heavyweight history, but still, it's only 4 wins, so it's kind of a little bit thin on the resume side. And, he only has himself to blame for that, because he took that long break out of the ring and he had his demons that he had to get right. I'm glad he got them right, but, we can't pretend like you would have won all those fights had you not stepped away from the sport. I don't think that's fair. He made his choice and he's got to live with that. Now, when we look at it, some people say, okay, well, he doesn't have the quantity. What about the quality? What about Vladimir Klitschko? So the funny thing is, a lot of people, they don't rate Klitschko so highly. So my question is this: if you don't rate Klitschko that highly, why is it significant that Fury beat Klitschko at 39 years old? I don't really understand that. Me personally, I rate Vladimir Klitschko very highly. I think he's one of the greatest champions ever. I don't think he gets the respect that he deserves. He was a great fighter. He had a long, sustained run, which is very difficult to do. I don't want to hear about the era, because 18 championship wins is impressive in any era. As you seen with AJ, he got upset. Mike Tyson got upset by Buster Douglas. Lennox Lewis got upset by Hasim Rahman. It takes a very special type of fighter to have that mental fortitude to win fight after fight after fight. And we can say, oh, well, this guy would have done it and he would have beat all these opponents that Vladimir Klitschko beat. I'm not so sure about that. It takes a very mentally strong person. A guy like Fury, he won the title. He went crazy. A guy like Andrew Ruiz, he won the title. He gained a lot of weight. Then he came into the second fight with Joshua, and he loses. So you don't know how people are going to handle success. And I think that's a very underrated part of longevity, is the mind game, the mental aspect of it. I don't think that gets brought up enough. So he beats a 39-year-old Klitschko. It's still a very good win, don't get me wrong. He then beats Wilder. Now, Wilder is interesting because a lot of people I've heard, they don't rate Wilder very highly. They think he was built up, which I agree with, and they don't rate him very highly. Depending on who you speak to, Wilder's either garbage or he's this great heavyweight killer who was the most feared man in the division. So I've noticed that, generally speaking, when it comes to hardcore boxing fans, they generally don't rate Wilder as high as I do. I generally rate Wilder a little bit higher. I think Wilder is a little underrated from the hardcore standpoint. I think people don't give him credit. Yes, he was built up very meticulously. Yes, he has obvious limitations, but he has the hardest right hand in the history of boxing, in my opinion, the hardest one-punch KO in the history of boxing. He has a lot of speed, which he doesn't get credit for. He's not one of these big, slow heavyweights who's like lumbering like that. He does have a lot of speed. He has a very underrated jab, very overlooked jab. His stamina is great. His chin is, he's durable. I'm not going to say he has an iron chin, but it's not glass. And he's got the heart of a lion. So I give Fury a lot of credit for those Wilder wins. But, let's not make a mistake about it here. Wilder is not an all-time great heavyweight. Wilder's a very good heavyweight, but I don't even rate Wilder as high as Sonny Liston, and you saw what Ali did to Liston, so that's just an example. I don't rate Wilder at that caliber. Dylan White, he's a good contender, but Fury's lack of accomplishments is just too great for me to ever seriously consider him the greatest heavyweight of all time. Now, if he keeps going, we can talk, And I know a lot of people are saying, oh, what about the talent? The talent. The talent can only mean so much. You can't only base it off of talent. To put this into the context of another sport, let's say you have an NFL player like Patrick Mahomes, who, from a talent standpoint, a lot of people say, wow, this is the greatest thing they've ever seen. This is the best player they've ever seen. He's the greatest of all time. No. This guy has, less than 20,000 passing yards in his career? You have another player in the sport at the time, right now, that Patrick Mahomes is competing in, Tom Brady, who has over 80,000 passing yards. So you can't even compare the two. Patrick Mahomes is nowhere near the greatest of all time. Now, 15 years from now, we might be having a very different conversation. Don't get me wrong. So I think that there is something to I'm not saying the book is closed. I'm just saying as of right now. I'm talking as of today. So yeah, Fury's not even in my top 10 right now. Maybe top 15. I mean, I think if he beat Usyk, he would be borderline top 10. But that's if he beat Usyk. And now we get into the head-to-head standpoint, because that's the way a lot of people rate, is also head-to-head. From a head-to-head standpoint, Tyson Fury is very difficult for fighters to beat, old fighters of the past to beat. You're talking about a guy who is 6'8", 6'9", 270, and has really good boxing ability. I think from a head-to-head standpoint, he would have beaten all the old champions prior to 1990. I think the only heavyweight champion great in history who I would feel very confident about picking to beat Tyson Fury, where I'm betting my money on it, and I'm like, yeah, this guy's going to be Fury, is Lennox Lewis. I think Lennox Lewis, from a head-to-head standpoint, is horrible for Fury. I think he's too big for Fury to do that stick and move stuff. I think if they get into a slugfest, Lennox is physically stronger and way more powerful than him, and a much better fighter at close range. I think Lennox Lewis would absolutely destroy him, and I think he would knock him out. And from a head-to-head standpoint, in my opinion, I think Lennox Lewis is the greatest heavyweight of all time. Even though he got knocked out twice, I don't think his chin is, maybe the greatest, or recovery abilities maybe the greatest. But I would feel like if we did a tournament of all the heavyweights in history, Lennox Lewis will win the tournament. So, yeah, could Tyson Fury win that tournament too? It's possible if he doesn't run into Lennox Lewis before that, and Lennox Lewis, he loses to someone else. But I think ultimately Lennox Lewis's, head-to-head would absolutely destroy Fury. So, and I don't think Fury's the greatest from a head-to-head standpoint, but I think he definitely is in the conversation of greatest head-to-head heavyweight. But from an all-time resume standpoint, absolutely not. Tyson Fury comes nowhere near the greatest heavyweight of all time. Peace out.